हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल फाइनेंशियल लेसन्स विद सेंचुरी तारिक। और आज मैं आपके साथ फाइनेंशियल लेसन नंबर 8 शेयर करने जा रहा हूँ फ्रॉम द और चैप्टर नंबर 8 फ्रॉम द बुक द पावर ऑफ हैबिट, वाई डू वी व्हाट वी डू एंड हाउ टू चेंज बाय चार्ल्स डुहिग। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। सो गाइस, लेट्स स्टार्ट द चैप्टर। चैप्टर का टाइटल है द न्यूरोलॉजी ऑफ फ्री विल, आर वी रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर आवर हैबिट्स। इसके अंदर कह रहा है कि क्या हम लोग अपनी हैबिट्स के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल हैं। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट द चैप्टर। द मॉर्निंग द ट्रबल बिगैन, years before she realized there was even trouble in the first place. Angie Bachman was sitting at home, staring at the television, so bored that she was giving serious through serious thought to reorganizing the silverware drawer. Her younger daughter had started kindergarten a few weeks earlier, and her two older daughters were in the middle school. Their lives filled with friends and activities and gossip their mother couldn't possibly understand. Her husband, a land surveyor, often left for work at 8 and didn't get home until 6. The house was left for the house was empty except for Batchman. It was for first time in almost 2 decades since she had gotten married at 19 and pregnant by 20, and her days had become crowded with packing school lunches, playing princesses, and running a home shuttle service that she felt genuinely alone. In high school, her friends told her that she should become a model. She had been that pretty. But when she dropped out and then married a guitar player who eventually got a real job, she settled on being a mom instead. Now it was 10:30 in the morning. Her three daughters were gone, and Batchman had resorted again to tapping a piece of paper over the kitchen clock to stop herself from looking at it every 3 minutes. She had no idea what to do next. That day she made a deal with herself. If she could do it, make it until noon without going crazy or eating the cake in the fridge, she would leave the house and do something fun. She spent the next 90 minutes trying to figure out what exactly that would be. When the clock hit 12 o'clock, she put some on makeup and nice dress and drove to a riverboat casino about 20 minutes away from her house. Even at noon on a Thursday, the casino was filled with people doing things besides watching soap operas and folding the laundry. There was a band playing near the entrance. A woman was handing out free cocktails. Batchman ate shrimp from a buffet. The whole experience felt luxurious, like playing hooky. She made her way to a blackjack table where a dealer patiently explained the rules. When her $40 of chips were gone, she glanced at her watch and said 2 hours had flown by and she needed to hurry home to pick up her youngest daughter. That night at dinner, for the first time in a month, she had something to talk about besides outguessing a consistent on The Price is Right. Angie Batchman's father was a truck driver who had remade himself midlife in semi-famous songwriter. Her brother had become a songwriter too and had won awards. Batchman, on the other hand, was often introduced by her parent as the one who became a mom. I always felt like the untalented one, she told me. I think I am smart and I know I was a good mom, but there wasn't a lot I could point to and say that's why I'm special. After the first trip to casino, Batchman started going to the riverboat over a week on Friday afternoons. It was a reward for making it through empty days, keeping the house clean, staying sane. She knew gambling could lead to trouble, so she set strict rules for herself. No more than 1 hour at blackjack table per trip, and she only gambled what was in her wallet. I considered it kind of like a job, she told me. I never left the house before noon, and I was always home in time to pick up my daughter. I was very disciplined, and she got good. At first, she could hardly make her money last an hour. Within 6 months, however, she had picked up enough tricks that she adjusted her rules to allow for 2 or 3 hour shifts, and she would still have cash in her pocket when she walked away. One afternoon, she sat down at blackjack's table with $80 in her purse and left with $530, enough to buy groceries, pay the phone bill, and put a bit in the rainy day fund. By then, the company that owned the casino, Hara Entertainment, was sending her coupons for free buffet. She would treat the family to dinner on Saturday nights. The state where Batchman was gambling, Iowa, had legalized gambling over a few earlier years earlier. Prior to 1899, the state's lawmakers worried that the temptation of cards and dice might be difficult for some citizens to resist. It was a concern as old as the nation itself. Gambling is the child of Archie, the brother of iniquity and the father of mischief. George Washington wrote in 1783, "This is vice which is productive of every possible evil. In a word, few uh, gain the abominable practice while thousands are injured." Protecting people from their bad habits, in fact defining which habits should be considered bad in the first place, is a prerogative law makers have eagerly seized. Prostitution, gambling, liquor sales on Sabbath, pornography, usuration loans, sexual relationship outside of marriage are all habits that various legislatures have regulated, outlawed, or tried to discourage with strict laws. When when Eva legalized casinos, lawmakers were sufficiently concerned that they limited the activity to riverboats and mandated that no one could wager more than $5 per bet, with a maximum loss of $200 per person per cruise. Within a few years, however, after some of the states' casino moved to Mississippi, where no limit gambling was allowed, the Iowa legislation lifted those restrictions. In 2007, the state's coffers swelled by more than 269 million from taxes from gambling. In 2000, Angie Buchman's parents, both longtime smokers, started showing signs of lung disease. She she began flying to Tennessee to see them every over week, buying groceries and helping to cook dinner. When she came back home to her husband and daughters, their stretches seems even lonelier now. Sometimes the house was empty all day long. It was as if in her absence her friends had forgotten to invite her to things and her family had figured out how to get by on their own. Betchman was worried about her parents, upset that her husband seemed more interested in his work than her anxieties, and resentful of her kids who didn't realize she needed them now, after all the sacrifice she had made while they were growing up. But whenever she hit the casino, those tensions would float away. She started going a couple times a week when she wasn't visiting her parents, and then every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. She still had rules, but she began gambling for years now and knew the axioms that serious space lived by. She never put down less than 25 grand. $25 a hand and always pays two hand at once. You have better odds at a higher limit table at a lower limit table, she told me. You have to be able to play through the rough patches until your luck turns. I have seen people walk in with $150 and win $10,000. I knew I could do this if I followed my rules. I was in control. By then, she didn't have to think about whether to take another card or double her bet. She acted automatically, just as Eugene Polly, the Ismac, had eventually learned to always choose the right cardboard rectangle. One day in 2000, Batchman went home from the casino with with $6,000, enough to pay for rent for 2 months and wipe out the credit card bills that were piling up by the front door. Other times she walked away with $2,000. Sometimes she lost, but that was part of the game. Smart gamblers knew you had to go down to go up. Eventually, Harris gave her a line of credit so she wouldn't have to carry so much cash. Other players sought her out and sat at her table because she knew what she was doing, and at the buffet, the host would let her go to the front of the line. I know how to play, she told me. I knew that sounds like somebody who got a problem, not recognizing their power, but the only mistake I made was not quitting. There wasn't anything wrong with how I played. Batchman's rule gradually became more flexible at the sounds of her winning. The losses expanded. One day she lost 800s in her winnings and losses expanding. One day in an hour, and then she earned 1,200 in 40 minutes. Then her luck turned again and she walked away with away down $4,000. Another time she lost 3,500 in the morning, earned 5,000 by 1 p.m. and lost another 3,000 in the afternoon. The casino had records of how much she owed and what she earned. She stopped keeping track herself. Then one month, she didn't have enough in her bank account for the electricity bill. She asked her parents for a small loan and then another. She bought $2,000 of one month, $2,000 500 the next. It wasn't a big deal. They had the money. Batchman never had problems with drinking or drugs or overeating. She was a normal mom with the same height and lows as everyone else. So the compulsion she felt to gamble, the instinct pull that made her feel distracted or irritable on days when she didn't visit the casino, the way she found herself thinking about it all the time, the rush she felt on a good run caught her completely off guard. It was a new sensation, so unexpected that she hardly knew it was a problem until it taken hold of her life. In retrospect, it sounded like there had been no dividing line. One day it was fun, and the next it was uncontrollable. By 2001, she was going to the casino every day. She went whenever she fought with her husband or felt unappreciated by her kids. At the table, she was so numb and excited all at once, and her anxieties grew so faint that she couldn't hear them anymore. The high of winnings was so immediate. The pain of loss passed so fast. You want to be a big shot, her mother told her when Batchman called to borrow more money. You keep gambling because you want the attention. That wasn't it though. I just wanted to feel good at something, she said to me. That was the only thing I did ever done where it seemed like I had a skill. By the summer of 2001, Batchman stepped to Hera's hit to $20,000. She had keeping the losses secret from her husband, but when her mother finally cut off the stipends, she broke down and confessed. They hired a bankruptcy attorney, cut her credit cards, and sat at kitchen table to write out a plan for a more asturate, responsible life. She took her dresses to a used clothing store and withstood the humiliation of a 19-year-old, turning down almost all of them because she said they were out of style. Eventually, it started to feel like the worst was over. Finally, she thought the compulsion was gone, but of course it wasn't. It wasn't even come close to that. Years later, after she had lost everything and had ruined her life and her husband, after she had thrown away hundreds of dollars, and her lawyers had argued before the state's high court that N.G. Batchman gambling not by choice but out of habit, and thus shouldn't bear culpability for her losses. After she had become an object of scorn on the internet, where people compared her to Jeffrey Dahmer and parents who abuse their kids, she would wonder, how much responsibility do I actually bear? I honestly believe anyone in my shoes would have done the same thing, Batchman told me. सो गाइस, जैसे आपने इस कहानी में सुना, आपको अपनी हैबिट्स ढंग से चूज़ करनी चाहिए. कुछ हैबिट्स आप सोच रहे हैं आप पे सेल्फ कंट्रोल है, लेकिन कई बार ऐसा होता है कि आपके सेल्फ कंट्रोल आपको पता ही नहीं चलता आप कब छोड़ देते हो. बैट्समैन ने इतनी अपने ऊपर रूल्स और रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगाने की कोशिश करी, गैम्बलिंग कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करी, लेकिन कोई फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ. एंड में वो इसकी गैम्बलिंग आदत ही बन गई उसकी, और उसको कितना नुकसान हुआ आपने स्टोरी में सुना. सो प्लीज़ अपनी आदतों पे ध्यान दीजिए. प्लीज़ चूज़ गुड हैबिट्स एंड ध्यान रखिए आप जो कुछ गलत काम भी करो वो आपकी कोई हैबिट ना बन जाए. एक बार कर लिया ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, हुई मिस्टेक, लेकिन बार बार मत करिए. इफ़ यू लाइक दिस प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब. थैंक यू.